We're actually very pleased to have a repeat guest on our program today, Jim O'Connor, President of CBIZ Employee Benefit Services. Jim, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great. Good to have you on the program again.
Good to be back. Real pleasure.
Hey, give our audience just a little bit of background on CBIZ, and then we'll kind of jump into this exchange discussion.
Sure. Yeah, happy to. Right. So CBIZ is a publicly traded company. We're about a $750 million overall company, and we're really two businesses in one. On the one side of our house is our financial services business, accounting, tax, audit, advisory, et cetera. And the other side is our what we call our employee services business. That'd be our property and casualty risk management business, our retirement plan services, and then all of our human capital and employee benefits consulting and administrative services, including payroll. And I run the employee benefits consulting and administration business.
Yeah. You know, we've been, before this program came on, I'm not sure you were able to hear, we were talking about, private exchanges and, that, we've got an event coming up at the end of March. I've had the pleasure to speak to several groups over the last couple of weeks in different parts of the country about the influence of consumerism and technology on employee health and benefits, and it's just dynamic change. And I'm sure you're seeing the same thing as you're out there with you and your team. This is a tremendous change that's taking place.
Oh, absolutely. It's you can't be in a meeting in our business without talking about private exchanges and the role that they're starting to play today, but probably more importantly, the role that we see that they could potentially be playing into the future. A lot of attention, a lot of focus right now. We're seeing slower employer adoption. Obviously, it varies across the country by market and also employer size, but certainly 100% of every meeting, every engagement we're in, private exchanges are a central part to what we're talking about, and for very good reasons. They bring some great value to the equation if done the right way.
Hey, Jim, this is Brent. What are some of the trends that you're seeing around private exchanges for this year?
So we're starting to slowly see it come down market. The early adoption and got headline-grabbing news was when some major, really large employers went to a private exchange. But we're starting to see the smaller employer, the under 1,000 employee, the few hundred employee companies start to look at it seriously. We're starting to see more and more carriers engage either with rolling out their own or partnering with some of the technology platforms that are out there like a liaison. So you're starting to see the major carriers around the country start to engage, which is important, the healthcare carriers specifically. The ancillary line carriers, the life, the dental, the disability, et cetera, those were real early into it. And we didn't see all of the major health insurance carriers engaging, but we're starting to see that trend pick up significantly, and that'll be the key, right? The health insurance is really the center of the wheel from a benefit program design, and so with the health insurance carriers starting to get more engaged, that I think will also accelerate employer interest, employer adoption, because they'll have more choice.
Yeah, Jim, it's not that, I don't think it's surprising to see that maybe it's gone a little slower. I mean, it went quick and then maybe gone a little slower than some people thought because somebody else said in this marketplace that it's going to accelerate as carriers, broker advisors, and employers graduate from private exchange school. And I actually agree with that, is that, it's the first time where there's just a hunger of people looking at it. Our event in Dallas, for example, is almost sold out attendee-wise. And, and that's not a bragging statement on our part. That's a humble statement saying, hey, there's just a big hunger out there in the marketplace to try to figure this piece out.
Yeah, no question. You're right. We still are plagued with this hyperinflation in our healthcare world, and so employers are thirsting for real solutions, not the solution for the next 12 months, solutions that are sustainable over the long haul. And how did you frame it? The private exchange, 101. It brings me back, it brings me back to the late 80s, right? And I go back that far in their industry where we're leaving from the indemnity world into managed care, and everybody had to learn a whole new language, right? You had to learn a whole new way of addressing this business, and this feels like we're there again, and we're having to teach the buyer, and once they understand it, and then they're convinced that their employees will understand it, then you can get a go-forward momentum behind it. But we are teaching a whole new vocabulary, a whole new way of buying. We're teaching the buyers a new way to buy, and that's exciting, but also will take time.
Yeah, it absolutely will. And to go back to the 80s too, because I'll date myself too. Back then, is that we have another parallel, and that's the movement from defined benefit to defined contribution retirement. I mean, we had to do a lot of teaching back then too around that change, and look where it is today.
No question, and you think of the progression of that, where going into the first world of defined contribution, it was still the employer making the decision on where the investments are going, and then you got employee engagement in that, but it was still with a singular platform. So say just John Hancock's funds, or just Prudential's funds, or just Merrill Lynch's funds, and then they went open architecture. And I think we're going to see the same progression here on health benefit exchanges, let's call it, the EB side of the business, in that right now, in that kind of under a few thousand employee market, it's still dominated by a single health insurance carrier and just that carrier's suite of health products, right? Once we get back to an open architecture environment where you could have a Cigna, a United, a Blue Cross, and Aetna product alongside each other, I think that's also going to accelerate employer adoption and employee interest in this. And I think that the parallels with the way the 401k world evolved are very, very relevant.
Yeah, they really are.
Jim, I got a quick question. So you do see that in the future that what's been said as the Costco type stock to shelves model is going to start to really come out in these private exchange platforms, whereas up until now it's been all about making sure these private exchanges can execute, and I don't want to say limiting the products and options inside, but having a standard base for right now with the expectation to have that stock to shelf type model.
Yeah, I think the expansion of the choice environment is going to be very real and an important one. Also, again, using the 401k analogy, but being careful not to overuse it, but there was a time in the 401k world where you went to too many mutual fund choices, right? Having too much choice is like having no choice at all. And so we have to be thoughtful in the expansion of it and using the Costco model where there's a whole bunch of products on the shelf and it can be overwhelming. And so we need to be thoughtful in the design of these things that the right products are on the shelves. And so that has to go with knowing the employer, knowing the culture, knowing the demographics, and then what are the products that align appropriately with that employee population. But fundamentally, yes, expansion of employee choice, expansion of that employee experience, that employee shopping experience is going to be key. But I think also what at times gets lost in the discussion is we talk about defined contribution, and that's an employer strategy for locking in his spend, but he can't abdicate his responsibility to cost containment. And so you have to still be looking at wellness and employee well-being strategies, because if that employer just locks in his contribution and just turns a blind eye to what's still happening from an inflationary pressure perspective, that spread is going to grow dramatically. And now you're undermining the fundamental premise of any benefit plan, which is to attract and retain the best employees. So I want to also caution employers, this does not, again, release you of your responsibility to be in the game from a cost containment perspective. And I think sometimes employers are missing that. This is fundamentally, it's a cost shift if they step away from their responsibility. That's all it is, and we can't allow them to do that in a responsible way.
No, Yeah, I agree with you. I had a conversation with another leader the other day, and they were talking about the education challenges and opportunities, and you've alluded to that too, that employers and those advisors working with them have with that consumer, meaning that employee and their family. And there's really two critical elements. One is, how do you help them make the right plan choices to manage risk for their families? And then how do you help them mitigate risks, which is your point about the whole health management side. If you just do cost shift, you're right, it's going to implode. It will not be sustainable.
Right. Yeah. No question. And you're right. When we hit on employee education, we think in terms of, or some may just think in terms of educating them about how to make which purchase to make off the shelf, if you will.
Right.
But the education is also within the use of the health system itself, right? We also have to bring it all ties together, right? Healthcare consumerism, employee well-being, choice, the technology underpinning it all. This all comes together, which makes it so exciting. It's not just about the old days of, well, let me just change a copay or change a deductible and get my premium savings that way and move on. You know, this all ties together, and I talk about having a seat at the table, and the employees having a seat at the table, whether it's their engagement with, wellness programs, wellness strategies, and their responsibility to do so, or it's the responsibility as a good healthcare consumer, as we're now deploying tools to help them be better healthcare consumers, whether it's prescription drug price tools or different pricing tools or quality tools for them to use. We're getting better and better at this every day, and we're nowhere near where we're going to be in this industry, but it's very exciting the direction we're going in supporting that employee from a consumer perspective.
Yeah, I think, running parallel with the adoption of private exchanges has really been the rapid acceleration of full replacement HSA programs in the marketplace too, and I think those two are running really rapidly forward. Not only is that what's proven itself out in a private exchange, but if an employer is not even doing a private exchange, it's more than likely they're putting a full replacement program in. And this, and where it's going to move is the power of choice is going to get stronger and stronger over the next 3 to 5 years, and that's going to drive tremendous, exciting innovation and change in this marketplace.
It really is, and again, we talk about technology and all of this, but the user, right, the employee, and this is just a demographic statement, right? As people age through the workforce, baby boomers are already retiring, the top end of the baby boomer chain, but so many in the workplace today are very comfortable on the internet. They're very comfortable in a technology environment, and so we don't just have to be about paper or stand in front of the room open enrollment meetings. I mean, that's all valuable and still need to do some of that, but people are very comfortable going on Amazon and shopping or the Google experience, and so we have the opportunity to continue to push the envelope with our tools and able to empower these members in the programs to be better consumers, and ultimately you tie it together, right? Better consumers with the better educational tools, wellness programs, all tying together. I honestly believe before I leave this industry, we are going to solve this equation. We really are.
I think we are too. Jim, it's been great having you on the program. I want to give you an opportunity to leave our audience with a couple takeaways, if you would, please.
Yeah, for sure. I would say the most important takeaway is if you're not looking at private exchanges, you're doing yourself and your organization a disservice. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to adopt them today, but as a buyer of health benefit programs, you have to be looking at these as a viable option for the future of your organization. But it does not mean that you abdicate your responsibility to still containing the costs in the program through employee wellness programs and really innovative, well-thought-out employee health population management strategies. So tie those two together, choice-based environment with private exchanges, innovative wellness programs to get people to be healthier, to help control the costs, and that ultimately is going to be the powerful equation that solves this for everybody. So I appreciate the time to share with you all on the phone, and look forward to maybe coming back and talking again sometime.
Hey, Jim, sounds great. Thanks for your time on the program today, and would love to have you join us in Dallas at the private exchange event. Got a lot of some really good people there, and I think you would benefit from, and we would benefit from having your thought leadership there as well. So if you can make it, we'd love to have you join us.
All right, fantastic. I look forward to seeing you guys, and you have a great rest of the day and a great weekend.
All right, you too, Jim. Take care.